Hello and welcome to Lesson 4. Lesson 4 is on the Holy Communion or the Eucharist, and this sits in the Christian Practices unit. So it's a Christian Practice unit. It is the Holy Communion, and it's Lesson 4. Let's go. So before we crack on, I need to just point you, as always, in the direction of Show My Homework. Please, 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 there is an A4, I wouldn't even call it a worksheet, an A4 basically guidance sheet which will help you and your comprehension. It will help you understand, and on that sheet I would like you to copy the key terms, please. So A, copy the key terms. B, I'd like you to do the activities on this sheet. And probably most importantly, what I'd like you to do is, as I'm delivering this narrative, I would like you to be writing, please, the key terms. Okay, so the keynotes, that is, sorry. So Holy Communion, what is it? Essentially, it is just a posh word for the celebrated for bread and wine. Why do Christians have bread and wine in their services? Well, it all goes back to Jesus. If it wasn't for Jesus at the Last Supper using bread and wine, then Christians to this day would not use, guess what, bread and wine. At the Last Supper, Jesus foretold his death. He held up the bread aloft above his head and said, "This is my body, which will be broken up for you." And at that point, he clearly broke the bread, symbolizing his broken body. He was giving us a quite explicit indicator. It's A, I'm going to die for you tomorrow. B, this is how I want you to remember me. The other thing that Jesus did, he held up wine and said, "This is my blood, which will be basically spilled for you." He was foretelling, obviously, the events that were going to unfold the following day on Good Friday. It is therefore really important for Christians, at least, that they remember the sacrifice that Jesus made. It is part of what we call the new covenant. I say we, I say Christians. It is part of what they, if you will, are called the new covenant, just a posh word for an agreement. I'm going to die, wipe away the stain of original sin. I want you to remember me. Okay, that's the deal, that's the covenant. Roman Catholics remember this through celebrating Mass. At the moment the priest blesses the bread and the wine, there is something called transubstantiation. You heard me correct, transubstantiation. We don't have to remember that key term, thankfully, but what we do have to remember is that Catholics believe that there is a real change, hence the word trans. It's transitory, it's moving. There's a real change in the substance of bread. It becomes the body of Christ, and for that reason, Catholics will not throw it away if there is surplus bread, and they will not pour the wine down the sink if there is surplus wine. It will go in something called a tabernacle and will be reused, and frequently the priest will just finish it off at the end of Mass if it's wine. The Church of England also celebrate Holy Communion or the Eucharist, and they are remembering the events of the Last Supper. Of course they are, they're being recreated, but more poignantly they're remembering the sacrifice that Jesus made and his subsequent resurrection. Certainly with the Church of England, the focus is very much on resurrection, more so the resurrection than the crucifixion at this point. They call it real presence because Jesus is present within, symbolically at least, within the bread and the wine. And so the Church of England recognise this. These are the most important features of both the Catholic and the Church of England in terms of how they understand the importance of the bread and wine. So the bread represents the body, the wine represents the blood, and it is a way of continuously remembering the sacrifice that Jesus made. All Christian denominations will celebrate the Eucharist at some point. Not all will have it every single time, so they do not therefore have a liturgy every single time they come together. And it is done sporadically amongst some denominations. They will also not always use the typical wafer thin bread. Sometimes like a loaf is used. So it is not important in terms of what is used to represent the body. Broadly speaking, it needs to be bread and wine, although actually that is not always the case. Some denominations will not use wine as they believe it is a root to evil, and therefore they would use black currant or something red to kind of symbolize the wine that was spilt. Okay, guys, okay, you know what I'd like you to do. Write the key notes and then go on to the document on Show My Homework. Good luck.